Welcome to the hunt.
Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 2 of Huntcast Podcast. This week, the episode is sponsored by Pnuma Outdoors, and you'll hear a little bit more about Pnuma here at the end of this episode. But we're going to start with a little bit of camo talk. And Doug, tell us what camo talk is.
Well, camo talk is going to be just going through the kind of the timeline of camouflage that has been introduced to us over the years, starting back in the 80s.
Yep.
And up until right now, basically. All the different brands that have come and gone and what we've used and what we've thought about using and things like that. So
for some, you may not have ever seen, unless your family, your fathers or grandfathers hunted, they wore.
Or me.
Yeah, or Doug. It was basically, Woolridge or old military hand-me-down camo that was passed down generation after generation, and that's what everybody hunted. It wasn't until 1980 when... Go ahead, Doug.
1980 was when Jim Crumley created tree bark, and it was the first camo that was not typical military green kind of fatigues, woodland camo, basically.
Right. And we actually have an old set of tree bark hanging in the shop with the tag still on it. And it was that gray tree bark that you'd see, on a birch tree or not a birch tree, a hickory tree or a beech tree.
Yep.
With these bright green leaves.
Yeah.
That stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. That was actually the later stuff.
Yeah.
The original stuff didn't have the green leaves.
Right.
He kind of introduced that a little bit later, but the original stuff was just a brown, gray... Tree bark.
Tree bark looked just like tree bark.
I still have a set. It's still hanging in my basement.
This is how old Doug is.
Yes, I can't squeeze into it, but I do have a set. Yes.
So that was in 1980, and after tree bark, there were some gentlemen down in the South that figured out they can make camo better.
Yep.
And they definitely did, and they still make good camo today, and it's just not what everybody likes to wear because it kind of reminds everybody of that old style camo.
Yeah.
So the first one was in 1983, and that was, probably one of the biggest brands that ever came out of a camouflage clothing line.
Yeah.
Jordan Outdoors, which is Bill Jordan. Bill, his son Tyler, David Blanton, all those guys are great guys. I've met them plenty of times over the years at shows, but they started Realtree in 1983.
Right.
And did you ever hear how Bill does this? Because I've actually gotten this story like 100 times, and it's cool to know. He literally goes out and collects leaves and rocks and dirt and all kinds of stuff and puts it on a table before they say yes or no to something. They want to see what it's going to look like.
Right.
And they do a really good job. And then the next Southern boy.
Yeah. After that, 1986, Toxie Hayes came out with Mossy Oak.
Yep.
And that's actually a interesting story. Do you know the story of Toxie and how he came up with that?
He was in college. I know that.
Yes. He was in college and he was just laying out in the grass, I think.
Okay.
Next to this big oak tree. And he was staring at it and said, you know what? That would make some awesome camo. And he was looking at the bark and the leaves and stuff, and that's how he came up with Mossy Oak.
Nice. Nice. Yes, I did know he was in college, and Toxie is also a very, very genuine guy. Got to meet him a few times over the years, and I actually wore Mossy for a long time.
Yep.
I was never a Realtree guy for some reason, but so both of those came out of the South basically, and they still are around today. They make great camo. They're great people. They've obviously branched out into different parts of the industry as far as food plot seeds and land, realtor, real estate, all kinds of stuff. But it's cool to see how those brands are now trying to keep up with the brands that we're about to bring up.
Well, the new players
in
the game.
So there's a lot of new players. It seems like every time I'm on Facebook, a new one pops up. But there are definitely some that are more, relevant than others.
Yeah.
So I think the first one would have been back in 2005. And 2005, everybody's going to know who this is. It's Sitka, and It was a gentleman by the name of Jason Harrison who started it. He owned a couple other companies and sold them, and basically was running it, consumer direct. So that's all Sitka was. There was never a dealer involved. There was nothing like that. It was all consumer direct. So you went to their website, or if they were at a show, that's how you bought that camo.
Yeah.
And that, the reason I mention that is because that will lead into something that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But in 2009, he sold to
Gore.
Gore.
Yes, sold to Gore.
So that was, according to his bio and everything I've read on him, he didn't like that Gore was taking it to their new way of sales, going away from the consumer direct and going to a dealer base.
Right. Well, that's corporate America.
Right.
That's
right.
And Sitka wasn't that.
Right. Exactly. I mean, Gore, they've been around forever.
Yeah.
They do everything from ski gear to hunting gear to fishing gear to whatever.
Yeah.
They're laced up in it some way, somehow, in just about every industry. But they were doing this, hey, this is our strategy. This is how we do it. This is what we're doing. We're going to dealers. So he backed away because he was originally staying on as, CEO of Sitka. So when he finally decided to leave in 2010, he started this next brand.
Yes. So Jason started Kuiu.
Yep.
In 2010, and it's different. It's definitely a different camo than Sitka. I guess their focus was really out west.
Right.
It was Sitka kind of was more of an eastern hunter or a western hunter, or Midwest, where they were stand hunting, designed to sit down, keep you warm for a long time. Where Kuiu was more for the hunter on the go, western guys that are constantly moving and glassing and moving and glassing. So different approach to hunting. Both awesome products, but just different approaches to, what it's used for.
Yep. And so, he grew the brand Kuiu from nothing to what you see today. So we were down at the Harrisburg Great American Show, and they had a gigantic booth there. They were at our shoot last year and moved a whole lot of clothing.
Yeah.
And it was reported that in 2016 that there was $50 million in orders for Kuiu.
Crazy.
So, that's a lot of camo.
Yeah. Well, it is too. Those two companies, what started really with Sitka. Sitka was the first company that actually took that first leap to say, you know what, we're going to charge you $500 for a jacket.
Exactly.
Whereas, none of these other guys before that would even entertain that, because the average Joe would never spend that kind of money on camo.
Right.
But you know what, Jason, he came up with this idea, and he took a leap, and it worked.
Yep.
So,
and now, unfortunately, Jason, I believe it passed in 2016 or 17 in a car accident. And so, very unfortunate. But, the people that are running the helm are still doing a great job. But it didn't stop there. There was other people that were like, we can do it. We can do it better, or not better, but we're going to try it. So I'm sure there was a couple other small ones that came out between 2010 and 2015.
Right.
That maybe, people have heard of, maybe you haven't. But 2015, this next brand came out and was using Jason's mentality of, we're not going to dealers. We're going to do this consumer direct.
Yeah.
And that was Skre. So Skre, Skree. And for quite a while, I wore Skre with our TV show. And very good guys, very good camo pattern. But again, they were trying to mix the Western world and the Eastern world together in one piece of clothing, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
You can't have something that's built to sit in a tree stand and then expect to go climb a mountain with it.
Yeah.
But Skre is getting some play now with a couple bow manufacturers now.
Yeah.
And they have recently, as of ATA last year, right?
Yes.
ATA last year, had a booth and started entertaining the idea of taking on dealers. So who knows where that'll go? I don't know how many dealers are selling it right now. I haven't, we don't look into that stuff. But then in 16, then the next notable one would have been kind of out of the South, And when they got into it big. It wasn't just hunting camo, it was fishing camo. And that was Nomad. And Nomad, I don't know. There was just something about wearing a pair of shorts that were camo. I don't know. I guess it's to each their own, as they say.
Yeah.
And then we mentioned this brand right in the very beginning of this episode, but I'll let Doug say what it's going to be. So in 2016, this company also came out.
Yeah. So in 2016, Pnuma
Mhm.
debuted, and they didn't revolutionize anything, but they just kind of added to what these other companies prior to them had already kind of laid the foundation for.
Right.
And, just high end stuff, great quality and really good patterns.
Yeah.
So they just kind of built on some of those other brands that already kind of laid the foundation.
Right. So when Pnuma first started, there was one ownership, and since the ownership has been taken over, and they've changed a lot of the people in charge. So they had some early growing pains, we'll call them. And now, definitely a brand to be reckoned with on the camo side, because not only are you getting these Western patterns and Eastern patterns, you're getting quality of the brands we mentioned before for like half the price.
Yeah.
So it's something that the everyday hunter can afford and go, hey, yeah, I like this camo.
Right.
And then 2018, we saw another one come on, also based, I believe they're out of South Carolina.
Are they? I'm not sure. I'm not real familiar with them, honestly. I never owned anything by them.
Neither have I. I want to say they're out of South Carolina, North Carolina, somewhere down in the mid-South.
Okay.
And that's Forloh.
Yep.
So they've been popping up at different shows here and there. And to me, it's more of like a revolutionized military pattern. So the way that they did their greens and stuff, it reminds me of the old field camo that everybody wore.
Yeah.
I'm not quite as old as Doug, but I remember when everybody wore those jackets and pants.
Yes. The 70s, the 80s.
Right. Yeah. So it's just like a newer colorway of that particular camo.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have some nice pieces. I can't really say because I've never worn any of it, but yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And then the newest one that's notable, and I'll let you explain why it's notable, because somebody left somebody and went to these people. Do you remember who left somebody?
No.
So Cam Haynes.
Oh, okay.
So old Cam.
Yep.
Shout out Cam.
Yep.
He left a notable company that I guess we could have named them in the camo game, but they didn't start in the camo game.
No. And they were never really that big of a player.
No.
They just kind of...
They had a lot of money to throw around.
Yes, they had a lot of money. And they just they really never had their own patterns, right? Didn't they just kind of use their other manufacturers' patterns?
No, they were using... Man, what the heck was the name of that pattern they had? Sky something. I swore it was Sky something. I could be wrong. But so there was actually... And I think these two people are still wearing it. Lee and Tiffany.
I believe they are.
So for those of you that don't know who we're talking about Under Armour.
Yes.
So I believe Lee and Tiffany are still wearing it. But Cam Haynes, if you are in the archery game and don't know who Cam Haynes is, please get out the book with a pen, start writing notes. Cam Haynes recently just left his day job to do basically what he's been doing for a couple of years now, full time.
Yeah.
And Cam's a really cool dude. He works with a lot of manufacturers. He's worked with, all over the place, and just very down-to-earth guy. But so he left Under Armour back in late 2022? Early 2023, maybe?
It might have been 2023.
Yep.
Yeah.
And went to a company that, according to their website, is based out of Maine. They are veterans. Jocko, I think, is the guy's first name. Or maybe it's his last name, or they just call him Jocko. I don't know. But excuse me. And their camo, have you seen their camo?
I have not.
Okay, so their camo, it reminds me of like what the special forces teams used in like jungle warfare. It's like tiger stripe.
Oh, tiger stripe. Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess if you are in for a long time and you see these patterns all the time, you think it's going to do something and work a certain way. I don't think it's something that works.
I don't agree either.
Yeah, so like you're hunting Pennsylvania, or you're based out of Maine. Okay, so you're hunting deep woods bucks.
Yeah,
they're not looking for tiger stripe camo out there.
No. Well, and listen, tiger stripe in general doesn't match any terrain because in the real world, whether it's east, west, north, south, doesn't matter where you're hunting, everything is vertical.
Yep.
Trees are vertical, plants are vertical, grass is vertical, everything is vertical. So to me, anything that has a horizontal line is kind of just going to go against the grain. It's kind of stick out.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, if it's not vertical, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But
no,
obviously somebody
thinks it works.
They think it works, and more power to them if they can.
And I mean, prior to me being on the archery side of the business, I worked with a lot of military and law enforcement, and with the military, we worked with a lot of contracts with them, and they were always complaining about camo because some of even the camo patterns they brought on the military was like, who thought about this? Fire him.
Right.
So I'm not real sure. I know they're doing some like jeans and like lifestyle wear, so I don't know where that's going to go, but it is what it is. We wanted to note them in here because obviously when you have a personality like Cam Haines supporting the brand, you're going to see some of it. So, but the reason we decided to do Camo Talk today was, one, we're going to talk about two of the new pieces from Pnuma. As we mentioned, they are the sponsor of this episode. So we have two of their new pieces here that won't be released till June, but we get a lot of emails on, up and coming stuff or stuff that's going on in the industry. And one of the things, and you'll learn the more you listen to our episodes, I am very opinionated because I've been in the industry so long. So there are brands that I'm not going to say I'm going to make fun of them, but
yes, you will.
I'm going to make fun of them.
Yeah.
So this one just happened to like trip that little wire, and I was like, why? And I get it from a business aspect of it, but I'll let you tell everybody what happened and why I got so antsy about this.
So actually, you emailed it to me.
Mm-hmm.
It popped up in my email, and apparently Sitka has opened up a retail store down in Atlanta. I believe right downtown Atlanta.
Correct.
Right. Yes. City center kind of deal. You were kind of not outraged by it, but you thought it was kind of, I don't know, kind of funny, kind of odd.
Yeah.
I personally, I think it's a great idea to bring the brand front and center.
Sure.
I can't think of another manufacturer that has that.
No, and
you're not going to see a Realtree store or a Mossy Oak store downtown anywhere.
No.
So listen, my hat's off to them. Well, listen, as you know, I love Sitka. I wear Sitka. So if they can bring it to the masses and kind of push it, and I think, but that's kind of going back to what happened with Jason, right? That's why, he kind of,
why he said, hey, I started it and I'm going to let it go because it's just not my
this
deal.
isn't my style.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but they're making,
and I get it.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. So
the business aspect of it, being both of us own businesses, we get the business aspect of it.
Yeah.
What I have a hard time with, and you hit it right on the head, was you don't see a Realtree store in downtown Atlanta.
Right.
You don't see a Mossy Oak store they're from Mississippi. So, I mean, I could be wrong. There might be one somewhere in Mississippi. But you're not walking into, let's say, downtown Scranton and finding or LA or wherever, a major metropolis like Atlanta.
Right.
And not to mention, is it in city center? It's a block from the Brave Stadium.
Yeah.
So they bought up the closest real estate, or leased the closest real estate to the Brave Stadium. And I saw the opening. You sent me the video on the opening.
Yeah.
And a ton of people there. They were giving away stuff. And hey, I mean, if somebody's giving out $60 sweatshirts, somebody's going to stand in line.
Yeah.
But that's my thing is like Bill Jordan is not taking a Realtree and putting it in the middle of a city
yet.
Yeah,
this might this might kick the door open.
Right.
We might see these pop up now.
And
I don't know.
And what this, so I think we talked about it a little bit in episode 1. I'm a fly fisherman. So Orvis, if you're a diehard Orvis person, you're going to love Orvis. But Orvis has a store in the middle of New York City.
Yeah.
Okay. And I get it. Are there obviously people that fly fish in New York City? Sure. So that I can see, but they sell rods and flies. So it's something that you're going to go use maybe that afternoon or that weekend.
Right.
And this is the hard part. This is like, we're not even in the spring yet. So turkey season is just coming up here in the next probably month in certain areas.
Yeah.
So, okay, I get you're going to pull some people there to buy, hey, I don't have to drive to wherever to go get it now.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do you sustain that business year round when there's no hunting seasons in downtown Atlanta?
Right.
So that's what irked me about it was like, I get the full version of why they did it. And as a business person, hey, okay, it's going to bring in some money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is the hunting industry. This isn't, a car dealership. It's not a restaurant. It's camo clothes.
Yes.
That cost $600.
Yes.
So I have a problem with it.
Well, we're going to see. Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll see.
And we'll follow up. And so this is, we wanted to talk about this because we want you, our listeners, to email us. Give us your thoughts on this. We want to talk about this a little bit more with some of our viewers with their comments. Yeah. So shoot us an email, huntcastpodcast@gmail.com. Go over to the YouTube and leave a comment on the podcast there. On Podbean, you can actually make comments in the app so that we can talk. We can actually message you back and forth on that Podbean app. So please do so because we'd like to hear everybody's opinion on it. And I think we'll roll into our next segment.
Yeah.
So we did forget to mention one thing though.
As far as the camo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So aside from the patterns, there was one big innovator.
Yep.
That kind of brought a whole new kind of approach to camo, and that was ScentLock back in 1992. And they were the first ones to really focus on scent control. And they created an entire line based on scent control. Yep. And there's been a bunch of guys since then, but ScentLock was the innovator
right
back in 92, and it really took off. I mean, as you know, I'm not a big scent guy.
Mm-hmm.
I hunt the wind. I don't get involved with the scent control and putting scents out and that kind of stuff. But there's a ton of guys that do, and they're very successful.
I'm one of them.
Yep. And ScentLock was the one that started it.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and that's they didn't have their own camo,
right?
So they licensed Realtree and Mossy Oak,
right?
And obviously that's where Jordan's and the Hazes, produced a lot of their money was licensing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, ScentLock was, that was the deal. Before there was a whole lot of sprays out on the market or powders or do this, do that, do this, to keep down scent.
Yeah.
And now I'd say 80% of the camo out now has, what did you say it was called?
Polygene?
Polygene.
Yeah.
That sounds like something you get when you go to the doctor. I got polygene, doc. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
that's the scent control.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just built into the fabric.
Right.
It kind of eliminates, the scent from sweating when you're climbing and walking and stuff like that. So most of the high-end manufacturers are using it now. So
yeah. And we'll talk more about scent control as we get closer to deer season and stuff.
Yeah.
But so we'll jump into our next little segment here. We got a real quick product spotlight on a company that has probably one of the best names I have ever heard. And the reason that we ended up with samples of this was because I laughed when I read the name, like my little, junior, sophomore year of high school, like that kind of laugh.
Yeah.
So we're in shed season right now. We're getting into spring turkey. And you know what they say during shed season, miles equal piles. So there's a lot of walking involved, and it's getting warmer, so you start to sweat. What happens when you sweat and you're walking a lot?
Yep. Chafe.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Girls, you get it too. Don't be mistaken. You get it too. So there's a company that it's I laugh every time I say the name. So it's called Squirrel's Nut Butter. And this is an anti-chafe salve that guys or girls, it is unisex, so it doesn't matter which one.
Right.
But it's to rub in all those places where you get chafe. So
exactly like the name says.
Exactly like the name says. So they sent us samples actually quite a while ago, and I've been trying it because I've been hiking a lot, and it works awesome. So the other one is called
Happy Toes.
Happy Toes.
Yep.
Not to be mistaken with the penguin. This is Happy Toes.
Yeah, so this is kind of the same deal.
Same deal.
Just made for your feet.
Right. So, Doug doesn't quite wear boots like I wear all the time. I'm in boots like 98% of every day, whether they're like my mountaineering boots, my out west boots, my winter boots, my hiking boots, whatever. I don't wear sneakers a lot, even in the summertime.
Yeah. So
my feet dry out real bad from being in boots all the time. So the Happy Toes stops all the dry cracking and, chafe that you can get on your feet.
Right.
So this is like a notorious year-round salve for anybody that does anything outdoors, whether you're just a hiker and backpacker, and I'm making noise dropping it, but regardless of your outdoor activity, if you are walking and sweating, you're going to end up with chafe at some point. So definitely check them out. It's a squirrel's nut butter, and they make a couple different sizes. And the ones that they actually sell are like a deodorant stick. The two that we're looking at right now, which we'll throw some pictures up on the social pages, are like little testers. So I ended up grabbing a couple of the deodorant type sticks that they have to use. So, but check them out, Squirrel's Nut Butter, and it says with beeswax. So,
okay.
So it doesn't smell, doesn't leave like a greasy, oily film on you. It just helps you not get chafe.
Yeah.
So what do you got there, Doug? You're getting ready. He's got like a stack of papers over here.
Well, we talk about different seasons, right? Deer season, turkey season, bear season. So another season that kind of gets overlooked is right now we're in the middle of it, but it's application season.
Mm-hmm.
So all of you guys that hunt out west, or guys that are thinking about hunting out west or love to maybe one day hunt out west.
Mainly if you're on the East Coast.
Yes.
Because if you're a resident, this doesn't really presume to you, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's application season. So what that means is, you've got to, it's not like, here in PA or New York or wherever on the East Coast or.
Walk in a store and buy your license.
Yeah, doesn't work that way. So you've got to apply.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to choose and it's not as easy as that. You've got to kind of pick the area you want to hunt.
Yep.
Your zones or your certain counties or whatever, and you've got to apply for a tag in that particular area. So there's a lot to it, and I'm far from an expert on it. I've done a lot of it, mostly in Montana, so I'm not real familiar with some of the other states, but it's something to look at, and you have to kind of focus on that right now because the deadlines are coming. Like Nevada, March 11th, mule deer, that draw is going to be later in the season, but the applications have to be in March 11th.
Right.
And as we progress, New Mexico, this is a big one. So you got bighorn sheep, elk, deer, antelope, and exotics. Those apps have to be in by March 20th. North Dakota, March 27th.
Which I still don't understand why they have a draw in North Dakota.
Well, it's
for anything.
Yeah, well, yeah, I get, yes.
It's North Dakota, man.
But you know why? Because they see the kind of money that these other states are bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
Montana brings in millions of dollars every year, and they're one state over. So why not just jump on the bandwagon? And this one really took me by surprise. I was never even aware that they had a situation like this. But Virginia, March 30th. Is the deadline for your elk tag in Virginia.
That's because they just opened that season not too long ago.
Yes.
So very similar to Pennsylvania, which you'll hear more about elk hunting in Pennsylvania too. But so we've had now 21 years, so 21 seasons of elk hunting in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And our entire, it's a draw. Doesn't matter if you live here, you're out of state, doesn't matter. I've put in literally since day one. And they opened archery, I think it was 5 years ago or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I've put in every year since for that, and I've yet to be drawn.
Yeah. That's like hitting Powerball.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so Virginia has an elk season. And
that is funny.
Yeah. I honestly, I did not know.
I could tell you a story about Virginia only because you brought Virginia up. So my dad used to live in Virginia, and he invited me down and said, why don't you come down and hunt down here? So I went down for a deer season. And I've never been so scared in my life to hunt deer with anyone.
Yeah.
We got there first thing in the morning. They whipped out a map and put it on the hood of a truck. And it was like we were planning something. Like, listen, you're going to go here, you're going to go there. But the reason I bring this up is, and why I think it's so funny, is we go to the farm, we put the map out, and everybody gets the direction where we're going. So first thing I'm thinking is we're going right out to hunt.
Right.
Nope. Got to go to breakfast first.
Of course.
So we go to breakfast. Now we all stink like grease because we went to some diner. We come back, we all go to the stands. Down there, it's a shotgun season. They don't have rifle.
Right.
So lunch comes around. Of course, we got to go to lunch, and now we're going to switch properties after lunch. And we're standing at the truck, and the map is on the hood of the truck again. And there was, I'm going to say 12 of us in this hunting party.
Air quotes.
Air quotes. Yeah, the air quotes had to come out for that one.
Yeah.
One of the gentlemen was an old, I don't want to say very old, but he was in his late 80s. And these guys have hunted together for years and years and years. My dad somehow, I don't know how he met them or what, but in the group, along with this older gentleman, was his grandson. Now, his grandson is standing on the same side of the truck as I am, directly next to me at the bed rail. And all I hear coming out of his mouth is Grandpa Duck. And that old timer didn't even think about it. He
He knew.
He knew, and the kid took a shot right over his grandfather's head with a slug gun and shot a doe at about 25 yards.
Jeez.
And I looked at my father. I said, I'm never, ever coming back down here.
Yeah.
So, okay, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's Virginia.
Yeah, so just be careful.
Yeah. So the next one is April 1st. This one I'm pretty familiar with. I have my application in. That's for Montana, and that's for elk and deer in Montana.
And that's any deer, right? Mule and
That's mule. Yeah,
whitetail?
yeah. Montana has one deer tag, which is good
okay,
for
so
either,
it's
either
just
a
a
mule
generalized
or,
deer tag.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So either or. And then Colorado. Colorado is April 2nd.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. So that is all species. So
Okay.
all of the tags in Colorado, you've got to apply by April 2nd. So
No, let me ask you this, because you'll know, because you do your tags in Montana. So if you decided that this year, hey, I can't get off work if I get drawn.
Right.
In a few of those states out west, you can buy points.
Yes.
So that you have the better chance of pulling a tag the
Yep.
next time around.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've done that where I don't go every year.
Right.
So a year that I don't go, I will buy a preference point in the summer. This way, when I do apply the following year,
Okay.
I will have that extra
so you
point.
don't have to buy the preference point now. You can buy it.
Right. Yeah, that the preference point, the deadline for that, I believe, like I know Montana. That's December. Pretty sure that's December. So yeah, so the preference points can be purchased without buying a license.
Gotcha.
And the thing is, if you do draw
Mm-hmm.
and decide not to go,
You lose that.
you lose that. And
Right.
all those points that you have accumulated, you're going to lose.
Yep.
And what they do actually is they'll take your license and they'll throw it into a pool, and then there'll be a second drawing.
Okay.
So I think sometime in the summer, the guys that will turn their licenses in that they can't go, there will be a second drawing, and you have a chance at drawing the second time around for all the unused
Okay.
tags that were drawn. So, then there's South Dakota's got, South Dakota's really not a,
No, and now because I know there's a couple of friends of mine that go out to hunt in South Dakota every year, and they're right on the border in North Dakota.
Yep.
And a lot of times, if you're with an outfitter, you can hunt both South Dakota and North Dakota for deer.
okay.
Now, I've only been to South Dakota to hunt birds, so that one surprises me. But again,
Yeah.
probably along the same lines of North Dakota. You're right there in the mix of everybody, and if
Yes.
they're making money, why can't we?
Exactly. Yep. So South Dakota, they've got a bunch of different ones. The 15th, the 18th, and the 23rd of April are all deadlines.
Okay.
And they break it down. So there's a special buck deer, and there's also a special antelope, which is the 15th. And then there's a statewide archery draw
Right.
for the 18th. And then they've got a statewide archery antelope draw, which is the 23rd is the deadline.
Gotcha. And I forget they have antelope out there. So
Yeah.
antelope, that I can understand.
Yeah.
Deer,
Yeah.
but antelope, yeah, I get that one.
Yeah. Utah, that's another good one. Utah, April 25th. Bucks, bulls,
Yeah.
and once in a lifetimes, which honestly, I don't know what that is.
So if I might explain this completely wrong, but so with our TV show, we worked with a company that was based out of Utah. They were an overlanding company, and they were all big hunters. And they said, hey, listen, you can come out. We'll put you on our party tag
Okay.
for a once in a lifetime. So it's certain zones.
Okay.
And even residents, I believe, have to draw these. And it's like certain zones that have just like ginormous bull or ginormous deer.
Yes.
And yeah.
And so is it truly once in a lifetime where once you draw, that's it? You're not eligible again?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
But like I've seen, they sent me some pictures of some of the deer they killed. And my problem with going out west to hunt deer, unless it's a muley, because we can't get muleys, you know, east of the Mississippi.
Right.
Whitetail, I mean, unless it's just something like stupid walks out in front of me and it's like, wow, well, yeah, I can shoot that one.
Yeah.
I'm not wasting my time on a draw for deer. You know, I'll go elk, antelope. I would love to do a bighorn in Alaska.
Yeah. Start saving your money.
Yeah, that'll never happen. So if anybody is listening and you are a bighorn sheep guide and you have a license you would like to give away, I will gladly accept it.
Yeah.
But no, so that's like for us, you know, for me, I go to Illinois a lot, and Illinois is an over-the-counter buy.
Yep.
So I go in, I get a buck and a doe permit, and if I don't kill a buck that the week I'm there, I can shoot 2 doe because my buck tag is also an antlerless tag.
Right.
So I have a hard time with a lot of these draws that are for deer. And granted, I know there's big deer out there. Montana, I wouldn't mind because it's a mix. Whether it's a muley or whitetail, you have the option to shoot either.
Yeah.
But like some of these other places that have whitetail mixed in with a mule deer, it's like, why do you have a whitetail draw?
Yeah.
Like we can't keep them from eating people's gardens and here.
Right.
Out there, it's like, no, you have to draw.
Yeah. And here, this is another one. And this is actually one of the bigger ones is Kansas is the same deal.
Well, yeah,
so
that I knew.
Whitetail.
That's a different story.
Yeah. Whitetail and mule deer. So that draw is the 26th.
And when it's a Clydesdale with a rack on it, I'll gladly accept a draw for that one.
Yeah, yeah. April 30th is Idaho.
Okay.
That's for bighorn sheep, moose, and goat.
Iowa should be next, right?
Let's see. Well, it's going kind of, chronological. So
okay.
April 30th. This is another one that I knew about this, but kind of takes people by surprise. April 30th, Kentucky is Rocky Mountain elk.
Yeah. Yep.
So they've got a pretty good herd.
They have a really good herd down there.
Yeah. They've done a good job with that. So that's April 30th is the deadline. Wyoming, this is another big one.
Yeah,
so,
that one's crazy.
Yeah, April 30th, Wyoming, you've got to have your app in for sheep, moose, mountain goat, and bison. And then back to Montana now, May 1st is the deadline for bighorn sheep, moose, goat, and bison.
And that's do you remember, did I send you the picture of Tyson from Easton when he killed the bison?
No.
Shot up with a Savage, I forget what the rifle was. It's an older Savage. Open sights. And drop this thing. And we'll get in. We're hoping we can get Tyson on an episode in the near future because he has another really cool story. He killed a buck that was tangled up with another buck. And they let him keep both heads.
Okay.
And he mounted them in the fighting position.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, just running through it again. So that was Montana, bighorn sheep, moose, goat, and bison, May 1st. Nevada, all species. So whether you're going to shoot muleys or elk or whatever it may be, May 8th is the deadline there. This is one that's not out west. This is actually east. This is going to be Maine. So
moose draw.
Yep. Canadian moose draw deadline is May 15th.
That's
also,
like a circus up there when they do that draw.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody ever watched the show, the Maine Warden show. What was it called?
Maine Wardens.
Was that? Yes. I thought it was called something else. Sorry.
No, I think that was it.
But yeah, like they showed video of that.
Something Woods.
North Woods Law.
Yes.
That's what it was. I knew there was another name.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, they showed that on a couple different episodes for the moose draw, and it's like crazy.
Yeah.
Thousands of people show up to see who gets to kill a moose.
It's big. They're as big as, whitetails are here in PA. Sure. That's moose is what they shoot. So that's kind of a big deal.
And a lot of bear.
Yes.
Never seen a lot of big deer come out of Maine, but a lot of bear and a lot of moose.
There are big deer that are just hard to find.
Right.
I went whitetail hunting in Maine years and years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago. And I hunted for 5 days. I did not see a whitetail. I didn't see a tail. I didn't see anything, nothing.
Yep.
For 5 straight days. And I did see some tracks. We had some snow. I was able to see some tracks. And that's really what they do. Those guys will track it.
Definitely.
They'll cut a set of fresh tracks and they'll jump on those tracks because the deer are few and far between.
Oh, yeah.
But they shoot, when they do shoot one,
they're monsters. Yeah.
Monsters. So, Yeah, so that's Maine, and then Oregon is May 15th. That's all species. Washington, same deal, all
Blacktail.
species. 50, yeah. That's
Blacktail.
one of the few places you can shoot a blacktail, right?
Buddy of mine lives in Oregon. Killed
Yeah.
a black. His daughter killed a blacktail last year. It was
Oh, yeah?
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's May 15th. So that's pretty much it. You know, there are some others that run deeper, but
Right.
you have some time. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to kind of run through the ones
The
where,
important ones that are now.
yes, that are, and honestly, we've already missed some. There were a couple that it's already too late. So,
Yeah, I've seen a couple of posts on different
Yes.
things
yeah, you've already missed the boat.
where they were showing if they got drawn or not.
Yeah, I know, like Arizona, I
Yeah.
believe.
In fact, that's what it was. That was the one that I saw.
Yeah.
It was, but people gotta, if you're gonna do that, when you send that out there to just make all your buddies jealous, make sure you block your addresses and phone numbers. I saw like 3 different ones, and I'm like, man, you're just giving it away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, some of the past deadlines, some of the bigger ones, Wyoming, January 31st was the cutoff. So if you
The hell was that for?
That's for elk.
Wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
you missed the boat.
Yeah.
So and that's a big one.
You know,
Wyoming.
shooting antelope now.
Yeah. So if you had your heart set on going elk hunting out in Wyoming this year, unless you
Sorry.
got your application in by January 31st, you're not going.
Snooze, you lose,
Yep.
man.
And Arizona too, another big bull hotspot.
That was what it was. I saw that one.
February 6th.
Yep.
So that was elk and antelope. So once again, if you dream to go in Arizona this fall,
Right.
You missed the boat if you didn't have your app in by February 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of the rundown of what's coming up, and start doing your homework because there's a lot to it.
Oh, yeah.
I know very little about some of these other states. There's a lot to it. I know a lot of buddies of mine that are into it, and they just will put apps in like 6 or 7 different states.
Yep.
Because some of these states, like Arizona, there's some areas in Arizona where it could take you 15 years to draw a tag.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's a game, and you have to know how to play the game and do your homework.
Right, because Montana last year changed the non-resident policy, or was it this year?
For what?
For the way it worked for a non-resident to apply, they changed something.
Well, yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years.
And actually, this affected me. 2 years ago, they changed it to where you got an outfitter point. So, because what was happening was these outfitters were losing clients because they were not drawing.
Right.
So they would book all these hunts, and then when they draw, in April, and the guy, the clients call and say, "Well, I'm sorry, I didn't draw."
Yeah.
Well, they would, book 30, 40 clients,
Right.
and 10 of them drew, and 25 or 30 didn't draw. So that was killing the outfitters.
Right.
So now what they do is when you put your app in Montana, you have to put down the name of your outfitter.
Who you're supposed to be hunting with.
Yep. So the name of the outfitter, his outfitter number, and then you will get preferential treatment, which it's a kind of a big story.
Right.
The locals hate it.
Oh, sure.
And the DIY guys hate it because they don't get the same treatment as the guys that are paying all that money to go out with an outfitter.
Yep.
But, you have to realize that, outfitting is huge business. Out there. And it's not just the outfitters that are making money. It's the gas stations. It's the grocery stores. It's the hotels.
Yep. And the state realizes it. So, I mean,
Yes.
that's the cool part is, yeah, sure, it's going to piss some people off because they're not getting tags now. But at the same time, what kind of commerce is, that 4 guys that are coming out to hunt with so-and-so outfitter
right.
going to bring besides being there to hunt normally private property?
Right.
So these guys, like, unless you're hunting the bob, and I think that's a separate tag even to hunt the bob.
I think it is, yeah.
So you're coming into town, you're going to go to dinner, you're there for 5 days, you're going to go to the grocery store, or, I didn't want to fly with my ammo or ship my ammo, so now you're going to go to the local sporting goods store and buy ammo.
Yep.
So yeah, it brings business to that area, and same thing with fly fishing. Like in Montana, I'm familiar with that, and it's the same thing. You're not going to drive. Well, I shouldn't say that. I would drive, but I didn't. But fly out there and want to fish, but maybe you're not using an outfitter. You're going to use an outfitter for rental boats.
Right.
To drift down the Yellowstone or the Madison or whatever. So you're paying them, and now you're going to want to cook while you're on the river. So you're going to the grocery store to get food. And so that's, a lot of people don't realize what goes into outfitting besides paying their insurance and leasing properties and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why it costs so much in a lot of situations, because there's a lot of overhead.
Yes.
When it comes to that.
And it's not just the outfitter, right? It's the guides.
The guides, right? Because the outfitter is the outfitter.
Yes.
The guides work for the outfitter.
These are the guys that are relying on those clients to pay the bills. This is what they do.
Right.
And if there are no clients, there's no work. So that's huge. So it's a trickle down effect, and it affects a lot more than just the guys that own the outfitting companies. It just, it's the guides, it's the cooks, it's the women coming in on Saturday to clean up the camp after everyone leaves and get ready for the next group of guys. So it's kind of a trickle down effect. So it was kind of a hot topic for a while. There's two sides to every story, but yeah, so that did change out in Montana. So they do give some preference now to the outfitters.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yep.
So, that's like in Canada, and I don't know why they don't do this. And I know they do it in some states, but in a state like Montana, for instance. So I had the possibility to go on a moose hunt up in Canada, and the outfitter up there, all of the draws were done, and there was no way for me to get a license. He gets X amount of outfitter licenses. That if somebody doesn't draw or can't get the license, he has the ability, he charges you a little bit more, and you take one of his licenses.
Right.
And I know they do it in a couple states, because I've heard people say that, where it's an outfitter's permit or an outfitter's license that you're getting. So you would think maybe down the road, Montana or Wyoming or some of these big states where just so many people put in for a draw.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to set aside 50 licenses, and they're going to go to these outfitters, and every year those outfitters change, so that it's not you must know somebody or whatever type of thing. But yeah, so no, the application season is definitely a season for sure for the guys that want to hunt out of state.
Yeah, it's a process. It's not just let's go to Montana.
Yeah, you're not just jumping on the computer and buying a license.
It's a process, and you have to learn it. And like I said, I'm far from an expert on it, but I try to do my homework on it, and there's a lot to learn about it. So it's something that you've got, if you do want to go out west, you've got to start to plan ahead a year or two in advance, really. Right. Sometimes 3 years in advance, and start the homework and start the whole process. So, so the next thing, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about product. We do a product spotlight.
Product. So we talked about these guys earlier, and we're going to give you a rundown here on some new stuff that's coming out in June. So there's not many people with the pieces that we're going to tell you about right now in their hand. And actually, Doug's going to have one in his hand because it's making my leg really warm. But so we told you this week's episode is sponsored by Pnuma Outdoors. And Pnuma, I started wearing Pnuma last year, and they have their Kaza camo, which if you go to their website, you can find all the Kaza camo pieces on there. And they've been running some sales here over the last couple of days on like rainwear and whatnot, getting ready for turkey season. But so the Kaza camo is a mix. So it's a Western camo and a Eastern camo.
Yeah.
The problem that I saw last year with my favorite jacket is their Alpha Vertex jacket. So if you go on their website and click on shop, it's like one of the first ones that pops up. And it's a super nice early season jacket. Has some greens in it, has some tans, the browns, black. And if you're in a tree stand or a saddle or, whatever, you hide very well with that camo on because the trees still have leaves. So the green blends in. But one of the biggest issues, if you're saddle hunting, it's not so much of an issue. But the tree stand hunters, guys that wear harnesses, there was no harness hole in the back of the jacket.
Okay.
So I had to be very careful on what I put on underneath it in case it was very cold that morning, because it kind of felt like I was getting choked because my tether was coming out from inside the jacket right behind my head.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, oh man.
And you can't put your hood on.
Can't put your hood on.
Now your hood gets blocked by the strap.
Beanie hat, is a must in those situations if it's cold. But the other cool part was for saddle hunters, their Kaza pants, the Alpha Vertex pants, actually had knee pads built into them.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you were turkey hunting and you were kneeling down.
Yep.
You're good. You're a saddle hunter. you're leaning up against the tree for an all-day sit.
Right.
You don't have to wear external knee pads. And for the price, and this is kind of what, sparked the whole camo talk situation before, was you can buy right now that Alpha Vertex pant and the Alpha Vertex jacket for $420 for the set.
Right.
Where if you go to a Sitka or an Origin, possibly a Kuiu, you're talking $500-600 easy.
Right.
Or more for a set.
Yeah.
I've seen it, you mentioned it before, it was a $600 jacket. I've seen that.
Yeah.
So Skre and Pnuma are probably the closest on the same level. It just comes down to some of the features that Pnuma offers that nobody else really does. So we got the chance to talk to Pnuma. A mutual friend of ours is now the current sales manager for them. And he came into the shop and said, hey man, you got to see the new stuff. So he showed us the new stuff. And what they did was they took some of the stuff from the original lineup and brought it over and came up with a whole bunch of new stuff for their new line. So the current pieces we're going to tell you about are the Ventus pant and Ventus jacket, which is that kind of break right after, the real early season archery. Starting to get a little chillier, leaves are dropping. You want something that's going to keep you a little bit warmer where you don't have to layer as much. And the big thing is on the Ventus jacket, they gave me, not just me, but every person that buys one, gives you the little hole in the back for your harness.
Right.
So if you're in the tree stand, you don't have to worry about that anymore and your hood can be closed. But this is like a super subtle fleece. So super, super quiet.
Yeah.
A lot of pockets. And it's in their new camo called Kaza OV. And that is more of a whitetail camo.
Yeah.
Not so much, the stuff you see on Kaza, the original Kaza.
Yeah.
But again, a little bit brown, darker greens, the black.
Some light stuff too. Some grays, some whites.
Some grays and the whites. So tree stands,
yes.
Gives you that look where you're not getting skylighted.
Yeah.
And then it also gives you that when the leaves are gone, you could still wear it.
Yeah.
And then one of the other pieces they came out with was called the High Point pant and jacket, and that's that heavy pile.
Yeah.
And now Doug saw it, because we have one of the sets here, and it reminds him of, we're not going to go into what version of the Sitka is, but that's what it reminded him of.
Yeah.
And he's right. It's very similar, but they added some features that Sitka doesn't have. Like on the face mask we talked about. So they give you actual holes in the front so that you can breathe and it's not blowing fog into your face.
Right.
Especially if you wear glasses or contacts when it's, 30 degrees outside.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than that soaking wet mask.
Right.
Terrible.
It gets heavy and it feels sloppy and then it gets cold. But yeah, so I have the jacket here in my lap and you'll see some pictures on the social pages.
Yeah.
But
it has that polygene that we talked about.
Yep. Polygene.
Odor control.
And then it's a Primaloft fleece with insulation in it. So again, it's that not early season. It's a little heavy for early season, but that kind of break where Halloweenish rut time where it's not like freezing yet.
Yeah.
Or it's freezing in the morning, but as long as you are good to go and layered, you can get in and then kind of delayer as the day goes on as it warms up a little bit. And
Pnuma has really, I think they've started to really focus on bow hunters.
Yeah.
They've kind of moved their line and kind of really focus on bow hunters and what bow hunters' specific needs are, because they're different.
Yeah.
Right? Bow hunting and rifle hunters, they have different needs. So Pnuma has really focused on trying to help out the bow hunter.
Right. Yeah. Because, you can't draw a bow in, the old orange pumpkin suits that guys wear during rifle season. But so the one thing that I love, and because they do it in the Alpha Vertex jacket, is in their hoods. So their insulation pieces are these like polygon
it's like a hex
waffles on the inside. So it's super soft. And the real cool part with this is, so I always have to have a baseball hat on. I don't care if it's 10 below. I have a beanie on over it. This actually has the extension on the hood.
Yeah.
So it acts kind of like a visor on a hat where it keeps that, if it's raining or snowing, it's not blowing down into your face and your eyes.
Yeah.
But definitely check them out, guys. It's pneumaaoutdoors.com. And like I said, you'll see a picture of these on our social pages here shortly after the cast is up. And what else we got? I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's about it. The one thing I do want to say, though, we touched on all the applications. If any of you guys have some feedback on outfitters, because that's always a tough thing, right? You go blind and you book with an outfitter. We'd love some feedback from outfitters you've had, good experiences with, some bad experiences with, and we can kind of put together, kind of a list and say, these are the good guys. These are the guys you might want to, think twice about booking with, because it's always tough. Yep. You know nothing about a guy and you want to pluck down, thousands of dollars to go travel somewhere. You want to be confident that, you're going to get a good hunt and a good experience. So any kind of feedback, good or bad, about some outfitters would be great, because then we can kind of pass it on to people. And I don't want to sit here and bash somebody. I have had some bad experiences with outfitters, and I wouldn't want to go on here and just start lacing into them and tearing them apart. But if someone approached me and said, "Hey, listen, what are your thoughts on so and so?" I'd be absolutely honest.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to tell you about all the good guys. But like I said, I'm not going to sit here and bash someone. But if we do have some feedback, we can kind of pass it on to other people that, will maybe help them with their decisions. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, so we'll definitely get a list going. And I think maybe episode 3, episode 4, being that we just talked about applications and Doug going out to Montana and stuff, maybe we'll talk a little bit about his elk season this year. It's funny at one point, but not funny at another. So you'll understand when you hear the whole story, but it's definitely a good story, and it could happen to anybody. So it is what it is, but we'll get to that. So in the meantime, we appreciate you guys tuning in for episode 2.
Yep.
We will be back next Sunday with episode number 3. And we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.